because she is a very nice person.
Fucking crazy kid. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Lauren LaVera
and
on the lgbterrorpodcast? Wow.
Yeah.
Ew.
And don't say ew. No. Yeah, she was phenomenal in the movie, and I'm so excited to talk to her about her character and just her experiences working on the film and stuff like that. It's gonna be really fun. Gonna be an exciting Saturday.
Us F-words have adopted her into one of ours.
Yeah. And I am so excited too because as far as I know, I haven't heard a lot of interviews from Lauren about Terrifier 2 now that the movie is actually out. She's been doing interviews just over the years, like building up the hype to the movie, understandably. And she did a recent one with I think it was called Halloween Daily News. Oh, she's coming in right now, actually. Ooh. I just got an email, and here she comes.
No way. No way! Hey, Lauren, what's up?
Hi guys, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
So nice to meet you.
This is Princess.
Come back here.
She's getting Monty.
Yeah! A meeting of the minds.
All right, fine, you go. Jesus.
Oh, he is so cute. Oh my goodness.
Hey, it's so good to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming.
How are you?
Be here.
How are you feeling?
Good. A little overwhelmed, but good. I was speaking to my acting coach today about it, and I told him like I nearly like renounced acting like 10 times in the past like 2 days. I was like, I'm quitting. I'm never doing this again. But overall, I'm really grateful and really happy with all the goodness that's coming with the film and all the great people I get to meet. And then
again.
I mean, it's gotta be crazy because like I imagine you're getting recognized for this movie like on the street now, or like people are puking in the theater and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, which actually I kind of love that. Like, I mean, that's why we make films, right? To get these like really big reactions, and so people, we can all kind of revel in like the human experience, you know. So I kind of love that. So I mean, I didn't vomit, but I would have if I hadn't known what was coming, probably, because it's really disgusting. But it's cool at the same time.
Definitely almost vomited out of excitement when we sent you that email. We were like, no fucking way. Lauren LaVera is not fucking coming on this podcast.
Oh my God. I'm so happy to be here. And thank you both so much for having me.
Yeah,
oh,
of course. Thank you. How, now that the Terrifier 2 like has premiered, like how is this feeling? Like, is that why you're renouncing acting? What's going on?
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, to be completely honest, like, I didn't watch the first Terrifier before I had auditioned for Terrifier 2, and I had no idea the scope, just the amount of people, the cult following it had. And I don't know if I would have even auditioned for the second one if I had known that. Like there's something really horrifying about being perceived. And as an actor, which is so like, why am I doing this? But like, I really don't like being perceived. I tell stories because I want to connect with people, because like I was an only child, like raised by a single mom. And like, I found a lot of my solace in films, and I found like, I didn't have many friends either growing up. I found like friendships in films. Like I found myself feeling less alone, and I wanted to do that for people. But when you think about the scope, the amount of people that have seen Terrifier 2, I was like, oh shit, like this is horrifying. It's just really horrifying. But at the same time, I'm like incredibly grateful, and I love that people are taking to Sienna. I mean, we all love Art the Clown. I mean, David Howard Thornton's incredible, but I wasn't expecting Sienna to get any attention, really. So it's pretty wild.
Every other gay guy I've talked to has just adopted her, and like she's like one of our own. Like that's our baby. That's our baby.
Oh my God. Like, can I say though that do you watch Dragula?
Yes.
I unfortunately
like, they retweeted me, and I nearly vomited because I love Dragula, and I was like, oh my God. And I've had a couple DMs from people saying like, I'm gonna drag Sienna, and I'm like, please drag Sienna. I will die. I will die. I will die. I will just like drop dead. Like no more. I'm done after that. Like I don't need anything else.
I was discussing with a gay friend of mine. He was like, I'm gonna do a cosplay of Sienna as a gay bear. And I'm like, I was about to do drag art, so let's just.
Oh my God, please tag me if you do this. Please tag me. I'll die. I'll just die. Like I'll cry. Please. I would love that.
We were thinking of oh sorry, Tony, were you saying something?
No, you talk.
Actually, our buddy and ours, who Tony was talking about, we are thinking about going as a trio now, where Tony was going to do art, our buddy was going to be your character, and I was thinking of being the little pale girl, because I'm like, well, who am I going to be?
You're two gay dads.
I do think that that's going to be an iconic character when they're talking about it. And she's already, Amelie, who plays she was incredible. She's already getting a lot of attention, which I'm so pleased about. And we had to keep that character under wraps.
Oh, sorry, Lauren.
Years. Oh, no, it's totally fine. We had to keep that character under wraps for 3 years. So I'm so happy people are finally talking about her because it's an incredible character.
So cute.
Yeah, I just we actually spent a couple years, because we've been following, I've especially been following production. I forced him into this with me. I've been following production for about 2 years, and I have been trying to figure out who that entity is. And I remember when we finally saw her, I was like, oh my God, that is not what I was expecting at all. She is so cute.
So cute, so tiny, but such a big presence. And I really appreciate about the writing and the performance of the character. So I'm so happy that, totally dress up like her. That'd be amazing.
I will try.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Was that one of your on-set besties?
Oh my God, I loved Amelie. I really did. Unfortunately, because she's a child actress, she was not on set nearly as long as the rest of us, because we were like ridiculously long. I can't even say how long we were on set most days. It was ridiculous. But she had to leave a lot of the times. But I loved her. She was such a delight to be around. Such a delight.
She mimicked David like nobody's business. She was so good.
Yes, I agree. Like she just really bodied the role. And I mean, she's so young. I don't think I've done that at that age. That's just a testament to how committed she was as an actor and as a performer, which is hard for that age.
Oh yeah.
If she wants to go big places, she totally could.
I believe in her. And I really hope she comes back for Terrifier 3, because I loved her character and I love what she brings out in art. She brought out a side to him that neither of us were really expecting to see, and we feel like it gave him a lot of depth that we kind of caught glimpses of in the first movie but weren't fully explored until this one, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think the relationship between Art and Amelie's character, the little pale girl, is going to be, I can't speak for Damien, but I think I've heard him say in passing, more explored in the third one. And it's both endearing, but also sickening, not in a way that you think, but it's a disturbing relationship.
Yeah.
You can't really trust, I think I can see what you're talking about, because you can't really trust Art around anybody, and you can't really trust her either, because it's like, what if she's pulling his strings? And he's already so crazy on his own. What is she going to like coerce him into doing?
Yeah, totally, absolutely. Yeah, but that's all to be seen.
Yeah, I don't want to get you in trouble with Damien. I'm sorry, we speculate a lot on our podcast.
No, I honestly, like, I'm talking out of my ass most of the time. I have no idea what he's gonna do. Like, he's told me ideas, he's told me different things but he won't even tell me everything, because I think he knows I have a big mouth. So it's totally fine. We'll talk. I'll say whatever I know.
Gotcha.
We appreciate that, because we're a very character focused podcast. That might have been obvious in our review. We do a lot of analysis. We're actually both writers, so we tend to look at themes and characters and what everything means. We had a real blast with this movie because there was so much imagery in there that we were just trying to figure out what it all meant.
So much mirroring that seemed intentional in a way. I think we had a question about physical presence in that movie, because there was not just mirroring between Art and the little pale girl, but there was mirroring between Art and Sienna a lot of the time, especially near the end. Was that on purpose?
What specifically are you talking about?
Okay, this is gonna have spoilers in it. I will mark it as spoilers.
That's what I wanted to ask. So we can talk spoilers in here.
Yes,
okay.
We're cool. Near the end, when she's sort of stalking him around, you you embodied David the way that he sort of, you know, stalks his prey on screen, and I was like,
badass.
is that on purpose? It seems awfully intentional.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that was discussed. I mean, this is something, I think that it was in the script. It was just written that she comes into her own. I don't really know how to answer that. It wasn't intentional. I don't think it was intentional.
It was super impressive.
Oh, that's so great. I'm so happy that you like that. I mean, personally, I mean, it's funny because I think Damien did a lot of takes, like 10 to 20. He'd done so many different ways. I did not know how Sienna was going to turn out. He gave me a couple line reads at times that he wanted me to say a certain way. And I was like, all right, like not really something I'm used to. But the final scene of me and Art, I think I only did like 2 or 3 takes, and I didn't get any notes about it. Like I would think I was just really, like, I'd lost my mind by that point. Like, I was exhausted. We were on hour, I can't even say at that point. I think
a little punchy at that point.
Yeah, I think I was just so done. I just wanted to get out of there. I was like, let's wrap it up. Let's go.
I was gonna say the rage and the fury is very believable. For sure.
I think, yeah, but I do think what I really love about the ending is, you know, Damien kind of like, he dares to pose the question, what happens if the victim comes back? Because we see a lot in it, you know, villains always come back to life. But like, I really appreciated that. Like, what happens if our final girl dies, but then she refuses to? And I love that. And what happens, how does she, or how does that person embody that after going through literal hell, and how would they be feeling in those moments? So those were concepts that Damien and I did discuss beforehand. We did a lot of discussing, exhausting, which was my fault, because I would constantly email and text him like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And he was like, all right, can you just like chill for a second? but yeah.
That's admittedly how I probably would have handled it. I tend to throw myself into projects, so I can actually relate a lot to what you're talking about, just as like a writer. That sounds a lot like my own mentor and I. Actually, you mentioned something that we wanted to ask you about a little bit. We were so like curious about Sienna's resurrection. So that confirms it. She died. He killed her. She was dead.
Yeah, she was dead. I think she died. I mean, I think it's a little muddy, but I think that she died when she was stabbed. Like, I think that's when she died, and she wasn't living in the tank. I think that was her hell. I think her hell was like continuously losing breath and continuously dying.
That's oh fuck.
That's intense.
Is there some sort of symbolic imagery there? I would love for you to tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Damien, because there's a lot of Sienna in Damien, I think, and which I so appreciated, especially from like a cis male perspective. Like, you don't always get like multi-dimensional female characters. And I think the best way to do that is, if you're a male, write the character as you would write any character. Like, not think about the sex of the character. And I think he did that with Sienna. I think he wrote her as he would write himself. And he used a lot of his own fears for Sienna. And I think drowning is one of them. And I think that's why he incorporated that in her hell. Like, that was one of her biggest fears, drowning continuously. And then she was brought back to life by a magic sword. And
yeah, I loved the magic sword. The scene at the beginning where Art points the flamethrower at you and you hold up the sword, and I think you screamed the first time we saw it. I was like, oh my god.
Oh my god, the dream sequence was so funny. That those were one of the moments that, like, one of the biggest notes I would get from Damien is more. Give me more. He wanted like camp, you know, and that's not.
I love camp.
I know, and I love it too, but it's not something I'm used to. I'm used to like really like whispery type of acting, which I'm happy to be like moving on to different types. But he wanted like really big expressions. He wanted her to feel like a little girl in those moments, and really like depleted and all of those things. And the screaming was cathartic, but like it felt really odd. A lot of the acting felt very odd for me to do, but I loved how it turned out in the end, and that's all due to Damien. That's all because of his direction.
Damien has really, really stepped up as just a writer and a director. Everything is so much bigger. And I can tell that he was like listening to everybody's feedback. And I really appreciate it because not a lot of creators are willing to do that and to take their fans' feelings into consideration while also striving towards their own vision, which I could tell that he really had. So I do respect him for that. And I'm really excited to see his future projects.
Yeah, I love that about Damien as well. But what's interesting, sorry, I'm so sorry. I got an email and I was like, shit, I gotta.
Oh, it's okay. I got a letterbox notification.
Should have done that sooner, my bad. But
Okay.
that is so true. Damien really cares. He's a horror fan. And not only a horror fan, he's a fan of cinema. So I think that he really, as a fan, he does it for the fans. But at the same time, I mean, this film, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but I think he has talked about it in different interviews. He tried to film this film like 10 years ago, the same exact film, like the same exact thing. He probably tweaked some things. He had a Sienna before, I forget her name. They filmed like, I think he said 90%.
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did. And there was just an issue, I think, with the lead actress and with like, I don't know. I don't really want to get into it because I don't know the whole story. But he wrapped it. Like he was just like, I can't do this anymore. And he just moved on and did like smaller projects to build up to this one.
That's incredible. I knew that Sienna or Proto Sienna was a character that he had in his mind for a while because I do watch a lot of these interviews because I'm very interested in the behind the scenes of what goes on in a film. I didn't know that he had made it that far, and it almost feels like serendipitous, like maybe it doesn't work out now, but look at what he made. Look at what he made because that didn't work out.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm super grateful. I mean, it sucks that he had to go through that, and that's how his journey went, but I'm very grateful that I got to be a part of this vision. And I wasn't even like acting at that, like 10 years ago. I didn't start acting until like 5 years ago, so I definitely wouldn't have been a part of that. Yes, I agree. And I love that he stuck to his guns and he was like, you know what, I'm definitely going to make this film. Maybe not now, but it's going to happen. And I think that's truly hard to accomplish. And I'm happy that he did.
Yeah, it's hard when something that you really care about doesn't work out like that and you kind of have to start over. But I don't know, maybe I'm an overly optimistic person, but I like to think that maybe sometimes fate has other things in store for us. And
I agree.
Yeah. And that's what seemed to happen with Terrifier 2. And I do want to say, and I don't want to overwhelm you or anything, I'm just being completely honest. This is one of my favorite horror films that I've seen in a very long time. And this is coming from somebody who's been watching them since they were about 12 years old. My favorite clown horror movie, if you can classify it as it was The Devil's Rejects for about 10, 12 years. Like Sid Haig, God bless him, is one of my favorite actors. And no disrespect to that movie, but I actually think Terrifier 2 did certain elements better. And I've just been kind of digesting that, like, wow, I think I might have a new favorite clown horror film.
Oh, that's so amazing to hear. I'm so happy that it resonated with you and that you enjoyed it. I mean, like, yeah, and I also really appreciated in your review from before, like the themes and delving deeper into concepts, which I think a lot of people aren't going to do because they just see a slasher film and it's presented to be fun and gory and over the top. But I think Damien is smarter than people give him credit for, and he does have a lot of imagery and concepts and thematically he wants to tell different stories within this gory gore fest. So it really means the world that you really enjoyed it for more than what it's perceived to be.
Yeah, I speaking of themes and symbolism, I'm so sorry to like detract from the little.
Oh no, please, let's go anywhere. Who cares?
Is there a sort of begrudging respect between Art and Sienna?
We are so interested in them.
What the hell is going on with them? Because they hate each other so fucking much. But he seems like he pulls punches around her, and what the fuck is that? He doesn't
treat her like anyone else.
Doesn't do this for anybody else. What is that? What's going on?
I think that is interesting. I wonder because Dave and I respect each other immensely. Like, and I mean, I had this like overwhelming respect for him as an artist and as a performer and as a person, and he has expressed the same thing to me, which of course is really humbling and wonderful to hear. And I wonder if that bled into the characters. But I mean, I mean, yes, I think he has a different outlook when it comes to Sienna. I don't think that she, in his eyes, is just another one of his like victims, another cow to the slaughter. I think that he's aware of her potential. And I think that's why he lured her using her brother to his territory, because he was like, these are my grounds and I will have the upper hand here. And he pushes her to hell. And I think that's why he took the sword, and he knew that the sword had, maybe he wasn't entirely sure what, but some sort of power that could defeat him. And I think that's why he took the sword, not only to mock Sienna, but to murder her with it.
He's a bastard.
He's a bit of a bastard, but you know,
fucking rocks.
made likable by David. But
he was great.
Definitely a bastard character.
A real son of a bitch. But yeah, we love him. We love him.
We love him though.
We do love him.
Yeah, he I really felt like David came into his own as this character in this movie. I meant what I saw on the podcast. I was an Art the Clown fan going into it. I saw potential in him. I'm a big fan of slasher characters and horror villains with big personalities. And I saw something there, and I feel like in this movie it was finally like realized, and I feel like I'm finally starting to understand who this guy is, and it was so fun to watch.
Yeah, and I'm just really happy that Dave got more screen time. Like, yes, I mean, it's a 2 hour and 18 or 28, I'm not even sure, minute film because of story, but also because you get, I don't know what the exacts are, but you get a lot more art, more than I think almost anybody in this film.
It does open with his bare ass, so it does in fact do that.
Yes, like literally, and on screen we get a lot more art.
David is really, you guys are both, I hope I'm not overstepping, you guys are both pretty brave to have shown as much as you did. I don't know if I would have had the courage to do what you guys did. You guys are rock stars for that.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's really funny because like I've done like my very first feature film, I had to be topless because I was like a drug pusher, and just like I was like supposed to be really high in that film, and so I'm no stranger to nudity. However, I was happy that you don't really see all of Sienna in this film, because I don't think that's what it's about. I will do nudity if it serves a purpose.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like yeah, she would be nude in this moment. But for the shower scene, it's funny. Jackie Hughes, who is our hair and makeup artist, is one of the heroes of this film. I was like, can you airbrush my body? Like, can you like you cover every pore, every mole? And this woman, she took like an hour and she just airbrushed my entire,
wow,
so I would feel comfortable. Like it was an unreal request, but she was like, I got you, girl. And she like totally did it. And I mean, she like said it too, because I was gonna get wet so it would stay in place. But very interesting experience, and we got very close after that.
Yeah, I've heard really nice things about Jackie. I'm actually buddies with Olga, the costume designer. Really nice person. Nothing but nice things to say about her. And she mentioned they were very close and that you guys all spent a lot of time on the set just hanging out with each other.
Yeah, Olga is another one of the unsung heroes of this film. Like the amount of hats, I think she was only credited for costume and set design, but for the amount of hats that she wore was so beyond that. And not only that, she and Jackie kept my sanity intact, because like I said, we had incredibly long hours. Like there were moments when like things, like questionable things were happening on set, and they always had my back. And Olga and I have remained very close, and same with Jackie. But I'm so happy that you know Olga. She's one of my favorite people. I love her.
We are actually hoping to get Olga on LGBT Terror.
She deserves it. Do it.
It really does. Oh my God. The movie looks so beautiful. For a gory slasher film, everything is beautiful. The costumes that you and Casey I'm so sorry. I'm trying to remember the actress who plays Brooke's name.
Really.
Kaylee, thank you. You guys, the outfits that you guys got to wear, everyone looks so nice. And I was watching an interview with Olga where she talked about how like she would look at each character and try to say things about them through their wardrobe. And I just thought that was so cool. And I remember looking at the costumes while I was watching the movie and just trying to figure out what that meant. Like I noticed when Sienna meets Art in the costume store, I don't know if this was deliberate. She's wearing a black and white sweater.
100% deliberate. And that was all because of Olga. Like that was from her brain. And she gave, and Damien loved it, but like she conceptualized that. She read the script and she was like, this thematically works. So yeah. And she also did the Sienna's bedroom.
Yes.
I love Sienna's bedroom. It's beautiful. And her and Jackie like stayed up a whole day and night before, like ridiculous long hours again, just to put that whole shit together. And they did an amazing job. They were fantastic.
Oh,
Totally
it's a
paid
beautiful
off.
room.
Yeah, it was beautiful. The colors, the everything, like just so many details. She's a genius. Like she really is. And I would love to see her in more interviews. So take her, show her.
I would be honored. You're gonna say something, Tony?
No, I was actually gonna look at you because we had a question and this is again me going a little off topic because my brain.
I need you to do this or I'm gonna go all over the place.
I might be mistaken. I feel like you've said in an interview somewhere that you think about the sexuality of each of your characters before you play them. Is that true? What's going on with Miss Sienna? What's going on?
We're curious.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And yeah, I mean, not only just that, like all of my characters usually have a book or a binder of everything. Like I decide their favorite character, their favorite like color, their favorite song.
We're gonna ask you about that too.
Yeah, we heard that Sienna got her own journal. Correct me if I'm wrong, which I was so like fascinated with. I love how much you put into her character.
Yeah, no, I did. Like I try to make a journal for all of my characters. And I even, because I was filming like a really cheerful, but like cheesy Hallmark Christmas film at the same time.
Oh wow.
Wild. I was playing an Italian woman in that one, so I was listening to a lot of Italian music because music really sets the tone for me. So I asked Damien, I was like, hey, do you have any songs that like are reminiscent of Sienna or that will help me get into the mind of Sienna? And he made me a whole playlist that I listened to. Okay, back to Sienna's sexuality. Personally, I believe Sienna is queer. Damien and I have had disagreements. I think he said that he believes like that she falls under like asexual, and I'm like, that's valid as well. Or she could be like, you know, like queer romantic, you know, maybe like sex isn't always on her mind. So I understand that. But yeah, I would love to have like a lesbian final girl. Like I would truly like I think that, you know, that's kind of missing in horror. But again, like it's something that Damien and I have to discuss further. But I think she has attraction to a lot of people, and I don't think it needs to be limited.
Yeah, I kind of I don't want to speak for your character, but she did seem kind of ambiguous to us. Even her interactions, I'm not sure if it was intentional or not. With Allie and with Brooke, I almost sensed a little bit of interest between those characters, and it was really interesting.
You mean when she was high?
Yeah, when she was high.
So,
we all get a little gay when we're high.
Yeah, we all get a little gay when we're rolling on Molly. It's funny because Damien almost didn't like keep that scene in the film when we were talking about it, and I was like, no, you need to keep that scene. I think it's so funny, and I think it becomes even more fucked up when she has to deal coming down from a Molly high.
Dealing with a killer clown while coming down on Molly. That's a nightmare.
Also begs the question, like, I know you don't really experience hallucinations on Molly, but like unless it's laced with something, like was she hallucinating some of that? Like what's going on in her mind? And and that's what I found so interesting about it. But even when I I mean, not to get too TMI, but like when I have rolled on Molly in the past, like I get very touchy-feely with the people around. I love everybody and everything, and like everyone's fair game. And like it's funny because walking through the background actors, I had like a thought, and it was so ridiculous. I like yell and ask all of them. I'm like, hey, is anybody uncomfortable with me touching them? Like, is anybody uncomfortable? But I had to walk through them, and like no one. They were like, no, do it. And I was like, so happy about it. So because I like caressed some people, because like you tend to want to do that when you're rolling on like
of course
like ecstasy. So
Sid has caught me the first time I did ecstasy. I did acid.
Oh, it was bad.
You remember?
I was like by your side for like what, 8 hours, and it was 8
Cheers
hours
to that.
of panic on my end. Panic.
I'm sorry. We don't do that anymore.
No, I would kill you.
Super interesting that, you know, not only that you have a whole diary about this character, and like I would love to hear about who her favorite characters are and all that.
We love her so much.
If you have fun facts about Sienna that you just want to share, maybe that didn't make it into the final film, oh my god, please tell us. I love her so much. But I'm also glad to like know that there is a queerness to her, because I read her as a little like, I see it.
Yeah. And it's funny because like I will always I'll try to find, like even in the Christmas film I did, like I felt like there was a queerness to that to that character as well. But they would never do that in a Hallmark Christmas film, unfortunately. But like I was all for it. I was like, yeah, make them queer. But just do it. Be brave. Stop being such a freaking coward. But yeah, I definitely felt that in Sienna. And I think it just comes from my own queerness that I want to like be able to inject that into characters. But to be fair, I am very pleased with the amount of opportunities, auditions I get that are queer, and it's not their whole identity, which is great, because you know, like movies in the 90s, like if someone was like a lesbian, that was their identity. Like, oh, lesbian. But they're multi-dimensional characters that also happen to be queer. And yeah, I would love to see especially more horror characters like that. That isn't their whole identity. It's their sexuality. It's not a big deal.
I actually wanted to say and I'm glad I can say this to your face. As a queer person, it really means a lot to me to see a queer actor playing the lead in a big horror movie like this. It really does touch me, and I appreciate you for that. So thank you.
Oh no, that honestly, that means more than you could even imagine. Like thank you so much for sharing that with me. And yeah, I do hope that this emboldens like other queer people to feel like they, you know, like, and also feel seen, which I think is the most important thing and why I got into acting. So people, especially in marginalized groups, can feel seen and emboldened and empowered. So thank you so much. Oh my god.
No problem.
No, we love you.
Yeah.
Yay!
Love all around.
By the way, with your absolutely angelic demeanor, is Sienna legitimately an angel? Can I ask you that?
Yeah. What is she?
I mean, I think she's very much a human in the beginning of the film. I think there's something thematic about the fact that she does come back to life, and that's angelic. But it's not really much that I can speak about, because that will probably, oh god, I don't know.
You're good. You don't have to answer. If you just
we don't want you to get in trouble.
Reach through the screen and kill me if I ask you something that you can't.
No.
But he's gonna come to my house and be like, no.
Oh my god. Just Art the Clown coming to your house, like
again.
But yeah, I think there is something angelic about her being resurrected. And you know, Damien, he presented this to me as a horror epic, like Grecian epic. And you know, there's a lot of heroic characters that do have to go through like literally hellish trials, and that makes them godlike even. So, and I think that he intends, without giving too much away, he intended something like that for Sienna. So it's definitely an epic in his eyes, and I mean, with that runtime, it better be.
Oh yeah, we're in the crowd of believing the runtime paid off. I'm seeing a lot of people. I'm sorry, I see a lot of people bitching about it. It really irritates me because I loved every second of the movie. I thought every minute counted. You were learning something about the characters. The story was moving forward. So I'm like, why are you guys complaining? This movie took 3 years to come out and they're giving you a 2.5 hour movie. Like, shut up. Sorry.
You're getting defensive.
I really appreciate that. And it's funny because when I asked Damien about the runtime before I had seen the whole film, he told me the runtime and I was like, what? What? Like, even I was like, no, don't do that. Like, slasher film, no one's going to want to sit and watch it. But then when I had seen the film and the pacing, and you're right, like, even in my eyes, every minute did count. And like I said before, I don't like seeing myself on screen, but I felt like, okay, like this, I want to see this. This makes sense in my mind. It helps build on the lore and the mythos and the character. And it means a lot for you to say that. But I think people, they don't want to think too deeply about films. We live in a time where like TikToks are like a minute, 3 minutes tops. So when they even hear 2 hours and whatever, they're like, oh my God, please no. It's just an attention span thing. But I think he's changing the game in a lot of ways, and hopefully this film won't be for everybody. Like, even the gore alone is enough. Like, it's not for just the general all horror fan. It will have a niche audience because it is in it of itself niche. And that includes the runtime. So yeah, not everybody, he's not going to please everybody, but in the end, he did make the film he wanted to make, and you have to respect that as an artist.
Mm-hmm. I really do respect him for that. And I hope Damien continues finding balance between, because I thought he was so good at this, like listening to things maybe he could do better. And that doesn't make him a bad filmmaker. He's wonderful. Everyone can do better. But I do hope that he isn't too bothered by all these people saying it's too long, because I'm like, I would love another 2 hour Terrifier movie if that's something you guys want to do. I would love to see that.
Yeah, what is pretty impressive about Damien is he does care. He's making films for audiences, but at the same time, he has like the thickest skin. He reads all the bad reviews. And I don't think I can do that. Like, I won't even read reviews unless they're sent to me. I'm just like, okay, great. Like, let's but he is like, oh, this guy thinks this. All right, that's fair. Like, that's fine. Like, it's not going to be for everyone. So, and I think he has a deep understanding of that. And as an artist, it's not your job to think about how you're perceived. It's your job to create what you believe in. And I think he understands that, and he will continue to do that for sure.
I'm really glad to hear that, because I have been reading a lot of the reviews, and a lot of them are really good, really, really good. I'm happy to tell you, a lot of positivity being thrown your guys' way. But I'll read it and I think to myself, oh God, I hope this doesn't bother him, because I loved it. I'm like, give me all the long Terrifier movies, give me more long slasher.
Where's Damien from? Where is he from?
He's from Staten Island.
This doesn't bother him. He's fine. Yeah. He'll be all right.
Oh, yeah.
I promise.
Very thick skin, that New York attitude.
Yeah. He's all right.
He's fine. He'll be fine. But no, yes, I felt the same way when I saw reviews from the first Terrifier, because yeah, it did get a lot of love. It has a cult following, but also people that didn't like it, and that's totally fair. All art will be that way. You cannot please everybody. Even The Shining, that's like one of my favorite films. I know people that absolutely hate it. They hate everything about it, and I think they just have poor taste. But and I think he understands that truly.
Yeah, and even me and Tony, there are movies that I love or that I've at least watched, and he'll tell me like, I can't touch that shit, and I'm like, that's fine. Everyone's different.
I'm sensitive.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
But that's the magic of art, right? What works for me might not work for you. And there's an individuality about it that's really wonderful. And it helps you understand yourself even more when you're like, oh, that's interesting that worked for me. And why didn't it work for you? Like I love talking about that with films, especially when it's centered around, like, especially films like centered around women, for example. And if I see a guy doesn't like it, I might be like, why didn't you like it?
Yeah.
What's going on there? Like interesting. You get into the mind of the person a little bit more, because like people get really offended by certain aspects of films that weren't intended to be that way. So it's really interesting.
I kind of find we're in a time period just in general with cinema and with media in general where it can be kind of hard to tell what's a legitimate criticism and when someone's hackles might be going up for not the best reasons. I even have to catch myself sometimes, and it's like, is this a legitimate criticism, or am I maybe getting a little bit too touchy
Looking
about
for something
it?
to be mad about.
Yeah.
They might be projecting some of their own insecurities. They might be projecting something deep in themselves or something that they've, experienced in their lives. And that's totally fair and that's totally valid. So that's why you have to take them all with a grain of salt, especially filmmaker. So yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Speaking of filmmakers and Damien Leone, I'm sorry, I'm getting us back on track.
I need you for that again.
Yeah, I got you. Damien, were there stunts that like we heard that there were stunts he wouldn't allow you to perform?
Yeah.
Because he is a nice guy. Like I know that he does care about you all.
Yes.
Do you mind telling us which stunts? Would that be okay?
Absolutely, I will be happy to tell you. The only two stunts. Well, it's the same stunt, but two shots of the same stunt.
Gotcha.
The only thing he would not let me do was, I don't know if you remember Sienna falling from the ceiling.
Yes.
Yes.
I wasn't allowed to do that, even though the stunt performer, Jenna, or what was her name? Helmuth, I think her name was, which is like a killer name. She was fantastic. I absolutely loved her. She had like this huge, like pillowy thing to fall in. I was like, that looks so fun. I want to do it.
I want to do that.
Like gymnastics.
He was like, absolutely not. You're not doing it. What if you fall? Like, no. And I you have to understand that as a performer. And another one is that same sequence when she just falls on the ground.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you noticed, but she falls with her head facing away from the character. This was right before Art spits on her.
Oh.
That's not my body. That is Jenna's body falling. Everything else though was 100% me. Like all the fighting, every interaction with Art, when I'm thrown over the altar, when I'm thrown on floors, it is me. And no padding. Like, unfortunately, most stunt performers get to wear padding, but a lot of women in stunts don't get to wear padding because we have to wear tight clothes and shorts and whatever. And of course, Sienna is exposing a lot. So none of it was padded. The good thing though is, so there were two sets of my costume. There was a more foam one, and then there was a rigid one. So for my stunts, I got to wear the foamy one, which was, again, still very uncomfortable, but it wasn't as sharp as the other one, which I was really grateful for because I wasn't trying to like get cuts and bruises.
Right here, yeah. Oh god.
Yeah. I already nightmare that freaking costume. I never want to wear it again. But it looked very cool, and it's almost infuriating how good it looks on screen because I hate that thing. But it does look very cool. But yeah, I did all of the stunts. We had a wonderful stunt coordinator whose name is Drew, and I felt really supported by everyone around me.
That's sick. Nice.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I loved it. I liked getting like thrown.
Yeah, I want to get thrown around. Fucking punch me in the face. Let's do it. Okay.
It was.
I love it, and it helped me get in the character more. It helped me understand what she was going through. I loved the moments where I was exhausted and feeling depressed and sad. I was like, let's use all of this, and hopefully it comes across as more truthful.
There's a scene, and I'm trying to remember. I might need Tony's help, where you're just lying there on the cold, hard ground, and you're just staring into the camera, and you just look done.
The dead-eyed look. Yeah, I remember that. It was right at the end. I think you'd just gotten Sienna down and she hit, and you were just like, I'm like, that's real right there. You're exhausted.
Yeah. Yes. None of the floors were clean. In fact, even dirtier. They were cold. So we filmed those scenes in the middle of February, and I was freezing. It was so cold. And it was in this really cool haunt in Philly, which is actually where I'm from. Called the Fright Factory, and they're really wonderful there. I try to go there every season now, but it was disgusting. No one cleaned it. Like it was like essentially in a basement, and because heat rises, it was even colder than you'd expect. It was snowing. It was like right before the pandemic started. It was,
and you're on the floor.
And cold metal.
Cold. Yeah, it was just awful. But again, I think it did lend itself to the performance, and hopefully that helped in a way.
It felt very real, and I gotta say, as well as you took those hits, it was so great seeing you kick Art's butt. I loved it. I've been waiting for someone to just give him a taste of his own medicine, and I really hope we see more of that, because it's like she's like an angel, or she's superhuman now. So how are their fights gonna look in the next one?
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And that's 100% what drew me to this character and this role. The fact that she gets to flex her muscles. How often does that happen in this? I mean, in slashers, you do see incredible, strong female leads and final girls. But I really loved the grittiness and the realism, because she is a young woman being thrown around by an adult, powerful demonic clown. So I loved how real it felt. It wasn't like she went full kung fu on him. Like she was realistic. And I appreciate seeing that, because it shows that even if you're weaker, if you're smaller, you can still put up a great fight against anybody if you have the determination to do so.
It was really admirable, just because you're a lot smaller than David, or you seem to be. And you were holding your own at the end, and I loved it. That was almost like inspiring to me.
Oh, that makes me so happy. Yeah, no, I love to hear that. Thank you. And yeah, Dave is great, but like he's a big softie, and I don't think he would ever hurt a fly, let alone.
Oh no, he seems so sweet based on the interviews I've seen of him.
I never really the part about it was trying to see him as a piece of shit, and see him as Art and not Dave. And I think he does a really good job at, like I said, bodying the character. So it's sometimes hard to, or it's sometimes easy to forget that, oh, this isn't Dave, it's Art, you know?
So with Dave and Art, would you say overall it wasn't too hard when you had to fight him, or when you were being antagonistic towards him, to kind of channel the anger that your character was feeling? Because I haven't done a lot of acting, so I don't know what it's like to pretend to be antagonistic towards a friend. Is that a challenge?
You know what? It's really interesting, and I think it's entirely dependent on the individual performer. And this is something that I've spoken to my acting coach a lot with, because there are certain, depending on the individual, there are certain aspects of the human experience that we feel more connected to, right? So it might be easier to access those feelings, and that you might be able to just pull them out without even thinking. For example, like the times where I've needed to be like really sensual on films, it's really uncomfortable. That kind of vulnerability is really uncomfortable for me, and I have to like psych myself out in order to get there. Sadness is another one that can be, you know, kind of challenging. You might have to draw from other experiences in your life. Rage, however, is not hard for me to act. I don't know what happened in my life. I don't know, probably something I'll need to unpack with a therapist, but it's just so easy for me to get there. And this is something that my acting coach laughs at me a lot about. He's like, you seem too threatening. You need to chill. Like my acting coach is constantly like, you seem mean right now, and you're supposed to be funny, so relax. And I'm like, oh shit. So yeah, I think also it helped that those particular days were very long. Again, middle of February, I was freezing. I was miserable. I just wanted to go home. And I was just like, I think I was thinking about Art in that moment, and I was feeling, my body was in pain. Like I was really in pain. So I think it made it much easier for me to access that rage, because of my circumstances.
I mean, the clown is why you couldn't go home, because of his freaking movie.
Yeah. I'm like, fuck this guy, Damien. I don't want to do this anymore. No, I was really like, we had a blast the entire time, but like, of course you have those moments of misery, like, when can I get out of this disgusting, like all the prosthetics, like cuts and bruises were just sticking to me, and like all the wetness and the mud, it was freezing. I was just like, ugh, get me out of here. So I think I just wanted to I would just try to crank it up to an 11 so we could just go home. Like personally, I think that's where my head was at.
Would you do it again though? Would you do it again for love?
I would. It's funny because like there were times that I would just look at Damien like, are we done yet? Like, can we stop?
Can it end?
And he was like, I'm telling you, like, with his really thick Staten Island accent, I'm telling you, Laura, like, you're going to think about this in like 2 years and you're going to look at it with rose colored glasses. You're going to love it. And I'm like, yeah. And he's right. You know, like I do look at it in that way, and I would do it all over again because I had such a fun experience. And I think it did pay off in a big way.
So Terrifier 3 seems kind of inevitable at this point. I know that David really wants to do it. I was watching an interview with him yesterday where he said he was dying to fight Chris Jericho, and I laughed. So what about you? Would you come back for part 3?
I would if I was invited to. I mean, Damien has hinted towards it to me, and I mean, I can't make any assumptions. I think it remains to be seen. It continued how the character continues to be perceived, and how people react to her. I think it might be a really important indicator of how he's going to make that decision. But I would do it. I would work on anything Damien throws at me. He's pitched another project to me that I would love to work on as well that has nothing to do with Terrifier. So if he throws anything at me, I'm like, yeah, man, let's do it, because I really respect him as an artist.
I mean, we'll definitely be keeping an eye out for your other projects, Terrifier and No Terrifier, for sure.
I'll let you know. I'll continue to post about it. I'm really bad with it. Like, I'm trying to have a more online presence, but like, it's kind of like a full-time job. It's kind of hard to.
It is. Even for our podcast Instagram, I'm on and off. It gets really tiring being on social media sometimes.
It is. And like, you're fed this like idea of what life is supposed to look like, especially on social media. So it's sometimes like really like annoying. So
yeah, like
away from it.
Everybody leave me alone.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. And I feel the same way. Like, just like, yeah. But honestly, YouTube and podcasts, like the amount of work that has to go into that, like, mad props to you too, because
thank you.
Honestly, I couldn't even make a 5-minute YouTube video and not feel like, hi guys. Like, I
up everybody.
I don't think I could do it. Like, you need to have, and by the way, you both have such like mesmerizing voices. I don't know. Is that like a really weird?
No, thank you. That's so flattering. I think I sound ridiculous.
A lot of people tell me I sound real stupid, so I'm just like, all right, well.
Oh, so endearing, and also like really like well spoken. Like, that's such a stupid compliment that you're.
Oh, it's sweet. Thank you.
But like really like magnetizing. I wanted to listen because like people will send me reviews that are like hours long, and I'm like,
oh no,
I don't listen to that. I got shit to do. But like, listen, it didn't feel like an hour. Since we're talking about runtime, it didn't feel like an hour when I was listening to the review, and I just really enjoyed listening to you both speak. So
thank you so much. That means
it was something
the world.
When I was, and also like really interesting concepts you guys were talking about. So I was like, oh, this is really fun and nice, and I like it.
Thank you so much.
Shut up, man. Look at this guy. Okay, well, I don't want to hold you too much longer, but I do have one last question about our final girl here, because I love her. Where do you want to see this character grow into? Who do you think she would become as she got older?
I think that she was already traumatized, right? And I think that the trauma, there's so many directions it can go to. It can go. I would love to see her really come into her strength, and not like G.I. Jane, but I would love to see if there is a Terrifier 3 that I'm invited to come to. I would love to see at least one sequence of her training, because she knows that this
Sarah
is
Connor.
Yeah, like I would love to see that. Like, I would love to see, a really, and I've thought about it being a woman. Like, it's so like, I've had so many ideas, but it's not mine to have. It's, I can talk about it with Damien, but like in the end, it's his decision.
But I'm listening.
Yes.
Her having like a relationship with potentially, or not even getting that far, with like this really cool badass like instructor that knows how to use a sword, because I think that she needs to understand, because I think the sword is more like an appendage now than anything, and she needs to know how to use it if she ever dreams of defeating Art the Clown again. So I would love to see that, whether she survives that or whether she dies. I would love to see again a really compelling fight where she can hold her own at least to the very end. And I would also, on another note, but I think it would be an interesting dynamic with Jonathan, I would love to see, played by Elliot Fulham, who's amazing, I would love to see Jonathan's character just like start going through the ringer. Like, I want to see this kid be so traumatized because it was such a
He's 12.
He's 12. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone like him had substance abuse. Like, I would love to explore that and see how Sienna would deal with that, because she's now this maternal figure to him. So I would love for that to happen. Again, it's not my decision to make, but it would be really cool to see. But more than anything, I just want to see Sienna dealing with her trauma even more so, and how that could affect her relationship with the person she loves the most, who is her brother.
Yeah, I don't want to keep you too long. So I'm going to try to keep these brief, but just in regards to Sienna's future and her trauma and her relationships, I have two little questions. And that is, do you see her becoming a wiser person or maybe an angrier one? And in regards to her and Art, do you feel like, how does she handle those feelings? Like, do you think her hate is going to consume her, or do you think she's going to maybe continue being the bigger person? And maybe he's kind of obsessed with her, or whatever they decide to do, and she's just like, whatever.
Yeah, I would love to see more flaws in Sienna. And I do think, like, kind of in the beginning of the film, in Terrifier 2, I kind of saw Sienna as a bit whiny. She's a bit whiny at times. But in the end, she really steps into her strength. So I think for the third, in my eyes, I think that she's tainted. I think that she definitely has this anger that I think she knows how to control for Jonathan. I think it's all going to be for him, in my eyes. Like, because in Terrifier 2, like, her driving force, what does she need to do to save her brother? And I think she doesn't want to end up like her mom when taking care of Jonathan. I think she's aware of that, even though she might have outbursts, which, by the way, like, I know Barb gets a lot of hate in reviews, but I personally loved Barb because I thought she was hilarious, first of all.
She was funny, for sure.
Flawed woman. Like, how often do you see like a hateable dad and you let it slide because it's like, oh well, he's trying his best, but with Barb, like, I can see people hating her because she's so flawed, and I love that. I'm like, oh my god, Dimension, yes, give it to us. Like, let's see these flawed female characters. And I think that for part 3, if there is one, and if I'm invited, Sienna is trying not to be her mom, but I might fall into that, and she might just be so tainted and so tired and so whatever that it does come out in bursts sometimes.
I mean, she's only human, and she went through literal hell. Like, how do you like, Sienna and Jonathan, like, they're the first people besides Victoria to survive Art with basically everything intact. It's like, how do you survive somebody like that,
Exactly. So I think there's a looming darkness around her that she tries to be positive, she tries to be her old self, but I think it probably gets to her more often than she'd like.
Whatever you guys decide to do, whatever direction you decide to go, I'm very excited to see it, and I do appreciate you taking all the time that you have to talk to us and give us such really detailed and in-depth answers, and just sharing your experiences with this project and as a fellow creative. That really means a lot to us. Thank you.
It was such a pleasure to be able to talk to you both, and I really appreciate your company and your presence, and I hope I get to see your art more in the future.
Thank you.
Of course.
That would be really fantastic. So, like, please keep me updated with all the stuff you're creating, because we need more queer artists.
Thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome back anytime.
Yeah. I'm a screenwriter, so if I ever feel like a project is right for you, if you're comfortable with it, I'll totally reach out to you. I would love to get you a gig.
I'm sure I'm probably gonna need work for sure. Like, I need to get paid. So go on.
Of course.
Yeah. No, I would love that. Like, on a serious note, that would be really wonderful. Like, please send it my way.
if I have any opportunities for you, I will throw them your way. Don't worry.
We love you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank
you really didn't have to do
It
that.
was so wonderful. Thank you so much. And yeah, if you want to talk in the future, like invite me again.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. And I hope you have a happy Halloween.
Oh my God, yes, happy Halloween. I hope you're doing all the fun Halloween spooky shit and stay safe and bye, puppy.
Bye.
Bye.
We love you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lauren.
Bye.